Yesterday, a deranged leftist mob attacked a man holding a sign saying, "We like Dave." This was the culmination of the mass walkout at Netflix, where 1,000 employees were going to storm out in support of the trans community over their horrifyingly transphobic special with Dave Chappelle. Now, it wasn't really transphobic. In fact, in the special, Dave tells a story about a trans woman friend of his and says their jokes basically grow up. But Dave does cave and say he's not going to do jokes about this anymore. He's not going to be doing a special, for maybe sometime in the future. And it really does seem like watching this special, The Closer, after Sticks and Stones, they tried to go after him a little bit, but it's hard because he's the king. He's on top. Dave Chappelle's the greatest comedian alive. That's a fact. He's number one. Everybody knows it. And so they struggled. But they did get to him. Dave then ends up doing a special where, look, The Closer was funny, but it was so much more of him addressing the controversy than doing stand-up. In Sticks and Stones, he's talking, his shotgun bits, funny, birdshot, buckshot. Oh no, he's like, I'll pepper him up a little bit. The First Amendment, all these things are funny jokes. He does. I'll give you another one. When he does the Asian stereotype, which is supposed to be offensive comedy, I get it. He talks about things in that special that we can recall, that we think back and say that was a funny joke. The birdshot, buckshot, birdshot, buckshot, buckshot joke was hilarious, and people quote it all the time. In The Closer, has there been anything people are quoting other than what a sad story? I got to be honest. I don't think so. So I enjoyed it because Dave Chappelle's a funny guy. But these activists, they come out and they end up attacking a dude. He's got a sign, "We like Dave." They rip it, throw it on the ground, stomp on it. Then when he's left with nothing but a stick, they scream that he's got a weapon. A woman gets in his face, shaking a tambourine, screaming, "Repent." I'm not kidding. These people are insane. Screaming, "Repent." If you want to have an actual argument about speech and violence and stuff, I'll roll my eyes, but I'll have a debate over this stuff. Okay, but what we saw at Netflix is the true form, the mask coming off. These people don't believe legitimate things. They have people who are more articulate and sophists who are able to manipulate dumb people. But for the most part, this is it. Now, Dave Chappelle is striking back. He says that if Netflix pulls his special, he will do a 10-city tour. We got a lot to break down here because, boy, is this one funny. Wocal Distance, he's a Twitter user. We had him on the show, Tim Castarell, and he mentioned his Netflix scoring system. And he says, you take the audience score, subtract the critic score, and you get the real score. And that's actually a good point. And we'll get into that. But first, let's read the story from Variety. As Netflix employees walk out over Dave Chappelle, fans voice undying support for sold out London gig. This is where I think we actually have something a bit more important. Dave Chappelle is planning a 10-city U.S. tour of his controversial Netflix special, The Closer, in the unlikely event the streamer pulls the show, according to fans who attended a sold-out London gig on Wednesday evening. According to multiple attendees, Chappelle indicated that he would visit 10 cities across the U.S. to screen the show. Chappelle's rep did not immediately respond to Variety's request for comment. They go on to say that controversies around The Closer snowballed since its release. Netflix employees and artists accusing Chappelle of transphobia and homophobia regarding comments and jokes made during the special. However, at the exact same moment that a group of Netflix employees staged a protest in LA on Wednesday over the streamer's decision to stand by Chappelle's special, across the pond, thousands of fans and supporters streamed into London's Eventim Apollo Theatre to see the man himself. On the sixth and penultimate night of his week-long UK tour, the 3,500 capacity venue was completely sold out, with most attendees paying $100 to $300 per ticket. Wow! That is a good chunk of money. And as you can see, Dave Chappelle's the top, man. He is on top. So these people think they're going to shut him down. But I got to be honest, I would not be surprised if they do in some form succeed. It's like I said, man, watching The Closer, it feels like he was deeply impacted by what happened with Sticks and Stones. I don't know how he's going to react to this. I mean, it's defiance, when he stands up and he says that I'll do a big 10-city tour. But let's take a look at what actually happened on the ground, because I want to show you how deranged and psychotic these people are. I used to do campaign fundraising for nonprofits. I had done fundraising on behalf of the Human Rights Campaign on more than one occasion. That's right. Yeah, they got asked for a comment, and they were like, "He's never worked for us," because these nonprofits, man, are they dirty? They play dirty games. Here's how it works: a nonprofit will hire a for-profit to do its fundraising, and then they can claim that these fundraisers never actually worked for them. So, yeah, that's the name of the game. Sometimes like a 501c3 tax-deductible nonprofit will hire a 501c4 political group to do its fundraising. So it's 501c4s aren't tax-deductible. It's a dirty game. But I'll tell you this. I've gone out to many protests. This is a whole new level of deranged. And it's interesting because around the time that I started to get away from all of this stuff is when we started to see the rise of the psychopathy, the sociopathy, whatever it is, infecting these people and making them deranged. Like the videos of, that meme of the woman and her like veins are popping out. She's like, "Argh!" Like these people are insane. And I'm not saying that to jab at them, to insult them. I'm saying it in the literal sense. These people are not sane. Okay, again, not an insult. I'm saying there is a defect in their minds that requires some assistance, and I am saying this with respect to the individuals who require treatment. I'm not talking about trans people. That's an entirely different subject. I'm talking about woke leftist mobs that are going around shaking tambourines, screaming, "Repent." Something is wrong with these people. Listen, what I can tell you about religion and growing up a Catholic and having my criticisms of organized religion and all of that, there is still a logical basis or an attempt at a faith-based basis in a lot of what we see with organized religion. And then you have crazies going around in the streets screaming and shaking tambourines, screaming, "Repent." It's not indicative of the greater religion. How do I know? Because I've actually been in churches, because I actually grew up a Catholic and went there. And so I have criticisms of the organization. Most people are regular people. They grow up, they believe things, they read things, they have a trust, and they have faith. What we see here, and I'll tell you this, having worked at these companies, is absolutely different. You have people who don't believe it, but just pretend and keep their head down. And then you have people who are true believers, and they're insane. There are zealots and cultists across the board. There are lunatics in every space. But what I am telling you right now is that these woke people screaming are overwhelmingly just disturbed people. Variety says Netflix employee walkout grows tense as trans rights protesters clash with Dave Chappelle supporters, which is just absolutely unfair framing. What it actually was is apparently it was two guys from Dick Masterson's podcast. I believe it was Dick Masterson, as I am told on Tim Cassaro podcast. I saw the clip. I didn't know if it was actually him, and some other guy. I think his name is Vito. I'm not entirely sure. They don't have photos or anything of it, but these are two people. They're not a big anti anything. Like the clash was them attacking a guy. So it's like if you have a mob of people and they attack a guy, we don't say there's a clash between protesters and counter-protesters. We say protesters attack a guy. Here's the funny part. These people, some of them do work at Netflix and many of them didn't. It wasn't even 1,000. And I think we should expect that, right? The big news was that there was going to be 1,000 people. It's like 100, I guess, and many of them were not even Netflix employees. The question, I suppose, is, will this actually get Dave Chappelle to back down? And the answer is, in my opinion, overwhelmingly yes. No, hold on there a minute. I know Dave Chappelle said, "I'll do a tour." Right. Well, hold on. Just let's talk about this. We're learning about Southwest Airlines and the Freedom Flu. And trust me, it's related. This makes sense. When they say that everybody's got to get vaccinated at Southwest and then people protest. They then say that, okay, well, if you're applying for an exemption, religious or otherwise, then we're going to put you on unpaid leave. Well, because of the protests, Southwest backs down and they say, okay, fine. If you are pending an exemption, we won't put you on unpaid leave. However, new employees must be vaccinated. You see how that works? Right now, the Southwest employees might be going, "Yay, we did it. Our protest worked." 10, 15 years, every employee will be under the vaccine mandate. Every single one. So let's talk about how this relates to Dave Chappelle. Right now, Dave may be saying, I will stand defiant. But Netflix is probably now saying, what is our upside here? The protests got worse. A guy got attacked. Do we really need this? I'd say the answer is no. Squid Game, massive. Great show, by the way. And the person who made it, the guy, I guess, was saying that it was like an ode to capitalism. I think that's funny because Squid Game is actually one of the most overtly anti-communist bits of propaganda I've ever seen. But they're claiming it's about capitalism, which just literally makes no sense. And well, it's like, I think the issue is communism typically refers to this type of like full centralized state authority, whereas capitalism is typically decentralized. So anyway, I digress. These leftists are like, corporatism is capitalism. And you're like, no, it isn't. It's corruption and corporatism. But communism is something specific. So anyway, I digress. Netflix has shows like Squid Game. No controversy there. In fact, they even got to placate the left a little bit. So why do another special with someone like Dave Chappelle? It's going to cost you $25 million. It's going to result in protests, physical attacks, negative press. People probably are going to be like, I don't want it. And then I'll tell you this. We talked about this on Timcast IRL. And I was saying, I think we need to support Netflix over this, we should sign up because of Dave Chappelle. We want them to know that if you do good things, like the Dave Chappelle special, we will support you. Doesn't work that way. It doesn't. And the reason is they still have the show Big Mouth. They still have the show Cuties. Now, the funny thing about Cuties and Big Mouth, Cuties actually filmed prepubescent girls in explicit positions. It's like a nightmarishly disgusting piece of content. And for that reason, I understand why people will not be supporting Netflix, even with Dave Chappelle. It's like Dave Chappelle's great and all, but you think I'm going to fund that? Good point. We also have the show Big Mouth. Do you ever see Big Mouth? How did this one get past conservatives' radars? Because it's a kids show, I guess. Big Mouth is a show about 7th graders engaging in adult activities. That's literally the premise of the show. And it's 4 seasons of it. I get it. It's a cartoon and adults voice the characters. I just happen to find it completely disgusting. Dude, I'm sorry, man. You're not going to be able to come to me and these leftists are like, you're so mad. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm not going to buy, a show like this, a bunch of adults voicing 7th graders engaging in these activities or whatever. I'm not going to pay for it. But yeah, it is kind of gross, man. Now, Cuties is where they cross the line because they actually have real children in these positions. And yeah, it's messed up stuff. So I don't think Netflix is going to get a net gain out of this. So to bring it all together, why would they do more of this? What's the upside? Moderates, conservatives, people of, moral fiber are not going to support Netflix, even if they hire Dave Chappelle. And the leftists will absolutely walk over Dave Chappelle. So let's just think about it. They say, look, we've got shows like Cuties and Netflix, and leftists love it. Conservatives complained about Cuties, and there was some controversy, but Big Mouth is fine. Dave Chappelle, however, is not going to convince conservatives or moderates to sign back up for Netflix because of the bridges we've already burned, but leftists will leave. Bingo. Don't do Dave Chappelle again. You see how that works? Let me show you some funny stuff here. Let me see if this is here we go. This Twitter user, Aries Digbeck, great name by the way, says, always wondered why Rotten Tomatoes gave such a critical score to Dave Chappelle, but seemed to be so lenient on others. What could it be? Maybe racism, considering they boost these 2 white comedians. Oh, look at that. Well, I pull up this tweet not to discuss any kind of faux racism or anything like that, but to show you the Netflix score. And how it works is you take the audience score, subtract the critic score, and get your real score. And this was presented to me by Wokel Distance, a critic of wokeism. And so here you have Hannah Gadsby, Nanette, 26 audience score, 100% tomato meter. Oh, every single critic thought it was great. But let's take a look at this one right here. Amy Schumer, The Leather Special. Even among the critics, 50%. Audience score, 4%. So negative 46. All right, makes sense. And then we can jump over to Dave Chappelle's The Closer. You see, now the audience score is 96 and the tomato meter is 43. You subtract that, well, you actually have a positive score. I like that system. I also love this. You ever see this? I love talking about Death Wish when this came out. 18% tomato meter, 71% audience score. The New York media is just so detached from reality, the media in general. And so you have a movie like Death Wish. This is just another example. It's not The Last Jedi. It's not a prominent example of this phenomenon. But I think it's a good example because Death Wish wasn't the best movie I've ever seen. It was a fun popcorn flick, a revenge film, Bruce Willis. And he's like, I'm going to get the guys who hurt my family. And then he goes and he buys a bunch of guns. And boy, did the woke media not like it. So who are they talking to? Here's what I don't understand. Some people have said the reason that critics give good reviews to bad movies is because they want access and they want to, they want these companies to advertise on their network. Okay. So why rag on a movie like Death Wish? Don't they want to make money from these studios as well? It's almost like the actual drive is ideological. They're trying to hurt content that doesn't fit their ideological worldview and help content that does. So you end up with Hannah Gadsby, Nanette, with a 100%, an audience score of 26%, over 1,000 ratings from the audience. And it's funny, I was reading it, and like some of the reviews are like people saying, I tried, I watched this, it's just not good. Some people were saying, there's no jokes here at all. Hannah Gadsby spins her own life story into a clever, raging, and confronting spiel against misogyny, homophobia, and even the tired old tropes of comedy itself. When Gadsby retches out her plan on stage, she reveals her strength, rage, and yes, winning humor. I don't know anything about this comedy special. I didn't see it. But I will say, when they come out and say Dave Chappelle's not funny, and he is, and they say this individual is funny, but the audience is like, she's not, I'm going to go ahead and side with the audience on this one. So, yeah. I don't know how we navigate around something like this. The people who came out to this protest were completely deranged. They're screaming, like I said, the shaking of the tambourine and all that stuff. But I do not believe even Dave Chappelle is resilient enough to deal with this. Like I said, he's saying he's going to be standing up and pushing back, that he will do a 10-city tour. All that means to me is it's the last time. What'll end up happening with Chappelle and all other specials is the companies are going to say, why bother? Look, Big Bang Theory made money. Why bother getting involved? And so if there's not going to be any content that promotes the values of freedom and individuality and liberty, then how do these ideas survive? Well, that's what we're working on over at timcast.com. Our goal is to start building culture. When you guys sign up as members, we are going to use that to make content. We started with a vlog. Vlog was really easy. We just film what's going on here at the house, and there's skating, there's motorcycles, there's, we're building out Chicken City. And then we have Tales from the Inverted World, which is just like a paranormal true crime, the name, it really does explain what it is. We've got some cool ghost stories and UFO stories coming up real soon. And the goal is to just have our values be translated in the content we produce and the ideas we present. Netflix ain't going to do it. Disney ain't going to do it. They're all just going to keep caving to the woke mob because it's presumably the safe bet. Why? My favorite analogy. We'll use Dave Rubin as the example because Dave is such a good, middle of the road guy, kind of, I'd say. Does anyone fear Dave Rubin leading a group of classical liberals to Twitter HQ with pitchforks and crowbars, screaming, cancel the far left? No, it's never going to happen. But does anyone fear Antifa showing up and these crackpot lunatics showing up and beating people and destroying property? Oh, they do. And so long as law enforcement won't do anything about it, then what do you think is going to happen? These companies will continue to placate the left. They'll continue to ignore moderates and the right. And in 20 years, your children will grow up in a society, in a culture that is all based on psychotic cult leftism. What do you get from that? Without anyone willing to stand up to it, eventually you will get some form of communism. Maybe it's state capitalism like China, where it's actually like a communist party that just controls everything but allows some, capitalistic enterprise in a certain sense. They have their pinky in everything. It's probably what you'll get. You'll get some kind of slow revolution. Then all of a sudden you will be living under the boot of the state. And I'll tell you, man, I don't think people realize what it's going to be like to live under these boots. I don't think people get it. What it's going to be like is going to be one day someone comes to your house, knocks on the door, and it's the woke police, and they tell you that you said a naughty word, or probably not even that. Your credit app will be discontinued or blocked or banned due to naughty words you said and was overheard by the Amazon machines. And then you'll be able to buy food. Won't be able to get a cab. It's like that Black Mirror episode with the social credit system where the woman just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So, yeah. Well, I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.